federal law, because this is a slap in the face to not only this mother and family, but to all of us. And we pledge out of National Action Network at our national convention that we're going to the Justice Department to review this case. There cannot be the allowance of no-knock laws nowhere in this country. Amen. Whether it is this case or whether it's Breonna Taylor, it's all because we're dealing with states' rights legislation around no-knock laws. This young man was in his own home, laying down with a licensed gun, and he is killed, and their defense is self-defense. How do you defend yourself in my house when you don't have a legal right? The warrant did not have his name or apartment there. What are you defending yourself against? Breaking and entering into my house? So it must be federal law, and we want her to know that we're going to stand with her and go to the Justice Department and demand they review this. This is not over. The state made a decision, but the state will not close this case. We will fight with this family to get federal investigation on this case. This is why, right here at this convention, you have the family of Ahmaud Arbery, who would not stop with just a state case, but also demand the federal. They were able to get the state case in the same Minneapolis. So sometime it works, sometime it doesn't. That's why we need federal law. I want her to know we're standing with her, and we're going to make sure the Justice Department knows that we all over the country will demand the Locke case become a federal investigation. Before hearing from the mother, let me bring our Attorney General of Black America, who represents the family in this case, Ben Crump.
Thank you so much, Reverend Al, for always being our leader. And it is so ironic that it would happen here at the National Action Network convention, where Karen Locke, the mother of Amir Locke, were joining other family members, mostly black mothers who had their children killed unjustly. And she was coming to try to talk about how to be supportive of them and them to bind together. Unbeknownst to her, Reverend Al, that at the very moment she's preparing to come downstairs, she gets the news that they're not going to charge the police officer for breaking into the house in the wee hours of the morning while her son is asleep. He's so asleep that the cop kicks the couch twice to wake him up. He immediately wakes up, not knowing who they are, and he's a law-abiding citizen. He's never had a criminal history, has a permit to carry a gun. He goes to protect himself. Where is the Second Amendment supporters for black people who have a right to bear arms? Where's the NRA? They should be outraged. It shouldn't just be the National Action Network. They keep promoting Second Amendment gun rights to protect your home, to protect your sanctuary. Well, that applies to black people too. Her son was one of those people who had every right to the Second Amendment. And when we think about these no-knock warrants, before you hear from Karen, who is heartbroken, her and Amir's father, Andre Locke, they are heartbroken. And she's going to tell you in her words, as only a black woman can, how frustrating this is. That, you know, they break into the house after they got this unjustifiable, unnecessary, unconstitutional no-knock warrant for property. I mean, this is what they call themselves breaking into the apartment for. It's an affront to the Fourth Amendment rights against unlawful, unreasonable searches and seizures. We saw it with Breonna Taylor. Now we see it in Minneapolis. Reverend Al, after Breonna Taylor was mutilated, 9 bullets in her body while she was practically naked, everybody looked at these no-knock warrants and who they were being executed against. 82% of the time when a judge signed a warrant saying you can bust in the house, it was against a black person, Joe. I mean, it's like they don't bust in white people's houses in the middle of the night with guns drawn, because they know people wouldn't stand for it. But yet they think it's okay to do that to African American families. We believe it's going to be very similar in Minneapolis when they finally provide the data of who houses they're breaking into in the wee hours of the morning. And just think about it for a second. Somebody breaks into your house. You don't know who they are. You are started in the middle of the night, which they say is the worst time to execute a no-knock warrant, because you're waking up, you don't know what's going on, and any law-abiding citizen, it is foreseeable, is going to try to protect themselves. And so then, Rachel, the police say, well, it was a life-or-death situation, and the police had to shoot because it was a life-or-death situation. But they created the life-or-death situation. That's what they're not telling you as they try to justify this. There was nothing wrong with executing this warrant like they executed against white citizens. You knock, you announce, people know who you are and what you're there for. But black people, they kick in the door and expect us to just say, whoever's coming through our door, we don't know if they're burglarizing us as a home invasion. Don't try to protect yourself. Where Amir tried to protect himself. And for that day, he's dead. And the NRA should be joining us saying, we got to get rid of these no-knock warrants. Right. Because if it can happen to Amir, it can happen to Breonna Taylor, it can happen to your children too. Her heart is heavy. Attorney Tony Ramanucci, Attorney Jeff Storms, we put forth a statement talking about how Mayor Fry in Minneapolis, after George Floyd, they said, we're not doing any more no-knock warrants. But I think this was number 71, Karen. So if you're not doing no-knock warrants, how does Amir Locke get killed during the execution of a no-knock warrant? Explain that. And that's why we're here. And that's why we're not giving up on getting justice for Amir Locke. His mother and father, their family are not giving up. And she's going to tell you that they are never going to give up. So without further ado, Ms. Karen Wells, the mother of Amir Locke. And we'll take some of your questions at the end.
I'm starting to believe that they knew I was coming to the convention today. So I almost feel like this was a setup. You couldn't wait until next week. You couldn't wait until Friday. So once again, Minneapolis, you're showing your true colors of actually who you are and who you represent. I'm not going to give up. Right now, the Minneapolis police officer that executed my baby boy on 2/2/22, be prepared for this family. Because every time you take a step, we're going to be right behind you. This is not over. You may have been found not guilty, but in the eyes of me, being the mother who I am, you are guilty. And I'm not going to give up. Continue to have your restless nights, because I know you do. You were probably restless before they decided to not charge you today, but you're going to continue to be restless because the spirit of my baby is going to haunt you for the rest of your life. Wow. I am not disappointed. I am disgusted with the city of Minneapolis. Very disgusted. I'm to the point to where I want to take back the residency of both my sons from that city. Even though my son on his birth certificate, why? Let's take off Maplewood, Minnesota. I don't want him to be remembered for a city that we embrace and raise our children in, and then you decided in less than 9 seconds to take my baby's life? And you think that you just gonna walk around and have a regular life, and I'm not? I'm gonna mourn myself for the rest of my days on earth until I'm united with my baby. That's not fair. It's not fair that I had to go and pick up ashes of my baby from my niece because I was too distraught to pick his ashes up. Did you think I was going to bury my son in the ground of the place that murdered him? No, wherever I go, my baby's going. I don't live in the Twin Cities. I left the Twin Cities. I took my son with me when I left the Twin Cities, and there was a reason for us not to be there. My son was protecting himself, thinking he had to protect himself from all the crime that is out of control, Mayor Fry, the mayor of Minneapolis, that you can't control. So my son decided that if he's going to go back and forth and do Instacart and DoorDash, he needed to bear arms the legal way. He listened to myself and his father. He did the right thing. But at the end of the day, the Second Amendment doesn't matter to him. He has too much melanin. So maybe if it was a little lighter melanin, maybe they would have gave him a de-escalation stages of a chance to drop the weapon. Wow. But you had enough time before my baby went and reached for his weapon. If you had time to kick a couch 2 times, not one, but twice, you had time to de-escalate the situation of my melanin black son.
My Lord.
Now, you're going to have to deal with me. I've never been Minnesota nice, and I'm not from Minnesota. And I said that from the first day that I stepped soil on that city. I am not Minnesota nice. You got something different right here. I'm from a different state. We stand up. We speak up. This is who his mother is. I'm not going nowhere. Anytime I come back to the States, you're going to hear about me. Minneapolis, Minnesota. Know who I am. I cannot, can you imagine knowing that you'll never get to see your 22-year-old baby ever again?
My God.
It is not right that it took me 10 hours to bring Amir into this evil, racist, unjust world. And then in less than 9 seconds, a police officer who had the record, not my son, he's the one that has the record. Why don't y'all go pull him up to see all the complaints that he has against him? Because my son ain't got no complaints on him. That's right. You decided that he wasn't worth nothing but less than 9 seconds of a human being. And y'all think I'm about to be nice? That's why I'm not from Minnesota, because I'm not. So get ready, because with the backings of these two and the other attorneys, we're coming. We're coming full force. And I'm not going to stop racing this race and running the race until I cross that finish line. All right.
We're going to take some of your questions. Also, his aunt, Linda, is also with us today. You know, and what Karen said, it's very important to put it in context. He, like many young Americans, was trying to do everything the right way. He was delivering for DoorDash. And that's why he went and got his permit to carry a firearm to protect himself. But just as Karen said, I really believe they don't think the Second Amendment applies to African Americans. Because we know without a shadow of a doubt, had this been a young white man with no criminal history, a law-abiding citizen to carry a weapon, and the police busted open his door, lightning would be striking and thunder would be rolling. But they seem to say, no, everything is justified if it's a black person, and it is not justified. Rev, do you have anything else to add before we take questions?
Take questions.
Any questions?
What's your message to the mayor of Minneapolis?
Well, I think, and before Karen addresses this, and you got to think, this is a mother who is grieving, and the wounds are still fresh. I think when they say they have policies, that they should follow the policies. There shouldn't have been any no-knock warrants being executed. And so this is something that they have to address honestly. It has to be transparency at every level now. We need to know who were those no-knock warrants being executed against, and was it disproportionately executed against African Americans, as many people believe. That's what he can do right now, immediately. But I think Karen has a...
Let me add to that before Karen speaks. Part of our going National Action Network on behalf of the Locke family with the attorneys to the feds is to investigate not only the killing of young Brother Locke, but why they put the no-knock law to the side and killed him in the first place. The police department of Minneapolis, Mr. Mayor, and the shenanigans need to be investigated on why this was allowed to happen. Let us not forget, in the same Minneapolis that she addressed, they claimed all kind of reforming of policing after George Floyd. They even legislated they were going to eliminate policing. You went from George Floyd that we're not going to have policing and we're going to defund all the way to shooting Amir Locke in his bed with a no-knock warrant. You have undone everything you did in trying to deal with the aftermath of George Floyd, and that's why we're going to stand with this mother and family to get justice and a thorough investigation of who decided to go backwards on no-knock and who decided to go backwards on policing in Minneapolis.
The answer to your question, the thing that I would say to Mayor Frye is, if you're running a city and the people below you disrespect your authority, your policy, that says a lot about those people that entered into that unit that day. Mm-hmm. They don't care because they feel like they can do whatever they want to do. He has my phone number. So now if Mayor Frye wants to meet with me, we can discuss and we can talk about banning the no-knock warrant in Minnesota in the name of Amir Locke. That's what we can talk about. Because there's nothing else you can say to me. I don't want to hear that you're sorry. I don't want to hear about your little condolences. That's not going to bring my baby back. So give me something that's going to justify the execution of my baby. Then we can talk. But until then, we don't have nothing to say to each other.
Wow. Okay. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
On another topic, if that's okay.
That's fine.
To either you or the Reverend, how do you feel about the statements that were made, reported statements from the Clark, New Jersey mayor, the racist statements that he made?
I think the statements speak for themselves. I think that anytime someone that is holding office can be directly lined up with this kind of bigotry, the citizens have a right to call for him to be recalled or to step aside because they did not have the knowledge of these kind of feelings when he was elected. People can misspeak and apologize, but people cannot hide who they are. And when it comes out later, say, well, that was then, this is not, I'm going to stay right where I am. People have a right, since they have more information, to ask for accountability.
What do you think of the lengths they went to cover this up?
I think that the length of the cover-up only in many ways embellishes the insult, because not only did you say something that was clearly racist, the fact that you tried to hide what you said, meant that you knew it was wrong, you knew it was racist, and you did it anyway. So you cannot now take any apologies sincerely, because if you were sincerely apologetic, you wouldn't have tried to cover up what you had done. All right, thank you.
Reverend.
Thank you, Al.
Keep watching CBS News Minnesota for continuing coverage.
Hi, thank you for joining us here on CBS News Minnesota. I'm meteorologist Lisa Meadows.